Thanks, Dave. Thank you all for coming. Just to once again clarify what we can accomplish here together tonight, I'm going to give you just a bit of a history lesson. The United States and Canada have a very long boundary. 40% of that boundary is water. There's over 300 moving towards 350 different bodies of water. Not all of them as big and substantial as the Great Lakes, but all of them important to the people and the ecology in the particular place that water flows. You go back to early in the 20th century, there was a lot of tension between the two countries over water. In the West, they were fighting mainly, or really arguing, and building their own little channels and dams and what have you. They were arguing over the scarcity of water. So people upstream, and of course there are people upstream in Canada and downstream in Canada and vice versa, and sometimes with the same river they're both up and downstream, as the one river may cross in several places. So there was tension there over the scarcity of water. Who got it? How do you regulate it? And who can regulate it? And then in the east, here in Niagara Falls, the argument was over how much water to put through penstocks, the Canadians wanting to have more hydropower, the U.S. wanting to have more dependency and encouragement of the tourism industry, so natural flow. So the two countries, rather than just trying to settle those two issues, recognizing that there will always be issues, even among the best of friends and neighbors, established the IJC, the International Joint Commission, in something when they signed the Great Lakes Boundary Waters Treaty of 1909. And that treaty tells us what we can and what we can't do, gives us our the parameters, the bounds of the IJC's responsibilities and its limitations. And there are limitations because, by and large, we don't regulate, we don't permit, and we don't enforce. So you say, well, what do you do? Mostly, we advise. And there is an exception where there is an international dam on international waters. In most cases, not all, we are asked, and we have the order on that dam. So we say how the water flows in what seasons, so that all the interests, whether it's shipping, environmental, the riparians who live along there, all those interests have to be balanced and considered in the hydropower interest as well. That is all in the Boundary Waters Treaty. Well, you fast forward to the middle of the century, and the Buffalo River, as well as the river in the Cuyahoga River, caught fire. There was just a mess in the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes had been used essentially as a dumping ground for industry that had been very important to the economy, but came at a horrible and an unnecessarily destructive cost. At that point, the two federal governments asked the IJC to write a report. What should we do about specifically Lakes Ontario and Erie, and specifically about the algal blooms and the nutrient loadings? The IJC wrote a report, and out of that came an agreement, the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. The first one was signed by the senior Prime Minister Trudeau and Richard Nixon, who didn't otherwise have a whole lot in common. But they signed this because they had the lakes in common, because they knew that the public wanted some protections from the lakes. That agreement has been rewritten several times. Most recently, it was signed again with updated understanding of science, the ecology, the interconnectedness of the ecology. And they asked the IJC at that point in 2012, every 3 years to write a report card on them. They said that the governments would write their own report card every 3 years. How did they do in meeting their obligations? But in addition, we were to write a report card. We were to both judge the government's report card. Did they write it fairly and truthfully? And to say anything else we wanted to help them understand how they were doing in the Great Lakes. And we have written a draft report, which has been published and is available. It's a draft because it's not complete. It's not complete because we haven't, when we wrote this, haven't heard from you, the public. So what we're asking tonight and in several other public meetings in different places along the boundary, by speaking at these meetings or by submitting something in writing for your opinions. So there's several questions there that will guide you. What we have written as a draft can be a guide if for those of you who were able to read it or read this, the summary or read just the findings in a couple of pages. Did we get it right? Did we emphasize the right things, the most important things in our findings? Do we recommend the right things? Did we miss something? Is there something that shouldn't be there at all? That's what we want to hear because a big part of our culture at the IJC is public outreach and listening to the public. And I'll just add a couple more thoughts. The IJC is very much committed to and has been for over a century in listening to the public and helping transmit the public's views and concerns to the governments. That's one thing. The other principle, we are a science-based organization, and we follow where the science takes us, not where the politics takes us. And the third point is that we are a binational organization. When I, as well as the other commissioners, was sworn in to be a commissioner, I took an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, which is what every appointed and elected individual in the United States does. And then we all also, according to the treaty, swore to administer the treaty without bias. That is to say, we are here as commissioners for the lakes, for the waters, all the way across the boundary. Tonight we're focused on the Great Lakes. I'm not here to defend the interests of American waters. I'm here, as we all are, collectively and together in a binational science-based approach to speak for the interests of the waters for this generation and for those to come. So I hope that's helpful, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you very much.